You swim really fast, you belong to aquatic royalty, and you're half human. Who are you? No, the answer is not Aquaman. That is right. You are the Submariner, the aquatic king of Atlantis, known to his people as Namor. He is incredibly fast, incredibly strong, and he has a whole list of aquatic powers. And he is seriously an angry guy. The Submariner premiered in Marvel Comics #1 alongside the Human Torch, and he is both similar to and far removed from that character. He shares the same flawed characterization as the Human Torch, as well as the same duality of spirit. However, as we will see, the Submariner is more than interesting in his own right. The first appearance of the aquatic avenging anthropomorph begins with a very routine diving mission. At first, we see the Submariner himself wrestling with some underwater treasure. Then we see these men on their ship searching for lost salvage. One of the men remarks about how it felt like the wreckage had already been salvaged somehow. They decide to go back down, and instead of one man this time, they send down two. And may I just remark for a moment at how well done this underwater scene is? The coloring works so well to separate the land and the sea settings perfectly. It's brilliant. Immediately after reaching the sunken wreck, the two divers spot the Submariner. He looks pissed. He remarks that the two men look like machines. It is very clear that he doesn't realize they are human, and so he decides to cut their cords to prevent their escape. Then the Submariner launches into an attack on the weakened divers and smashes one of their heads. Yes, he literally smashes the guy's head with his bare hands. It's gross. The last remaining diver gets the freak out of there, and the entire ship hoists anchor and attempts to escape. But the Submariner is so powerful that he literally just rips off their propeller and prevents them from going any further. Then the entire ship begins to sink into the ocean, presumably killing the entire crew. Yeah, it's really debatable as to whether the Submariner is a good guy or not. He's not really good or evil. He's really just a guy. The Submariner collects the corpses of the divers and returns to his kingdom, where he presents them to this thing, which is described as a beautifully robed creature. I don't know about you, but I don't exactly think that this thing is cute. It tells him to take off the diver's helmet, and Submariner is shocked to see that there are actually humans inside. He feels a little bad about killing them, but then his mom is all happy about it. At this point in the story, we get a little backstory for the Atlanteans. For a long while, the Atlanteans suffered from bombings from human science vessels who were using the bombs for research purposes, but nevertheless murdered countless Atlanteans unwittingly. It turns out the Atlantean queen, who is Submariner's mother, emerged to the surface world as a spy to determine the military might of humanity. She ended up as a stowaway on a ship where she met a human male, which she eloped with and birthed a single child. She explains that she sincerely loved him, but ultimately understood that the human race was a cruel and could not be trusted. And so it became the Submariner's destiny to one day rise up and conquer the human race for the safety and protection of his people. And after hearing the truth, he is perfectly fine with this revelation. In fact, he pretty much gets right to the job by teaming up with his cousin, the young Dorma, and he decides his first move is going to be the destruction of a human lighthouse. He makes good on his promise. As we can see here, the Submariner is acting like a right old nuisance to these humans, who are probably genuinely shocked by the whole situation, especially this guy who gets launched into the sea like a freaking cannonball. 100% sure he didn't survive. After the lighthouse is destroyed, reinforcements arrive, and so the Submariner and the young Dorma decide to hijack a plane to make their escape, which is actually pretty cool and serves as a great action-packed moment. Then the comic ends with the promise of more stories and further issues which explore the Submariner's crusade against the evil white men. I just had to emphasize that part for dramatic effect. And there were a great many more adventures. The Submariner continued his crusade, uh, as well as many other side stories, and so many team ups, as well as crossover events, such as the one involving the Torch, hint, hint. And that's just the Golden Age. The Submariner is such an interesting character because he perfectly rides that moral gray line between hero and villain. He is charismatic enough to root for, you want to see him succeed, and yet his greatest enemy is mankind. It's us. You're his greatest enemy. I want to see him win. I want to see him cause destruction because that's fun. And yet he also wants me dead. So I don't know how I feel about that. Whatever. So people die in this book, and they die unceremoniously. Unlike in the Torch comic, where things are warmer, here the book is very cold. Uh, and it fits Submariner perfectly. It's exactly what he needs to tell his story. It's perfect. It's almost like it's exactly like the Human Torch, but simultaneously worlds apart. Everybody wants the Torch because he is bright and powerful. Nobody wants the Submariner because he's violent and antagonistic. He's a nuisance to the human race. And I kind of like that. Anyway, we're done for this episode. Thanks to all you heroic nerds out there who joined me to explore this comic. Make sure you new nerds out there subscribe to this channel to follow along the journey. And don't forget to follow me on Facebook so you can be updated on all the comics that I'm making. As for me, I bid you adieu. I remind you to always be kind to the sea animals, or Prince Namor will punch you into the ocean like a cannonball.